Hello guys, Vengeancer here, bringing you another BDO video. I'm out here in the middle of the ocean. I'm headed to Port Rat. Now, if you're not subbed, go ahead and sub. I'm going to get the self-promotion out of the way before I get into the content today. I said I was working on energy, and I meant it. Last time I left off, I was at like 469. Now I'm at 484. I ran through a whole lot of the Odalita stuff. I've pretty much finished most of it. There's still a few things I can do here and there, but I've ran through the majority of it. I still need to do the ecology. I haven't touched those yet, but there's also ecology I need to do in finish up in Calpheon, Valencia, and Camasilva too. So for now, we are still working on the easy, low-hanging fruit, and we're headed to Port Rat to finish the people of the node manager inland. Let's see, no, that's not it. People on the sea, that's what I'm headed for. That'll be 1 energy there, so that'll bump me up to 485. But I'm just sitting here with a nice cup of coffee. It's about 5, a little before 6 a.m. I'm sitting here thinking about video, what I want to record today. And it's been a long weekend. Got a lot of stuff going on. So this I don't know what you want to call this, daily a dose of BDO or something, but it's going to be kind of like podcast style. I'm going to talk while I do this energy stuff. And I wrote down some topics that I want to touch on because there's been some stuff I've been thinking about. But before I get into that, there might be new content coming, different games and stuff. Yesterday we spent the better part of the day playing Fortnite. Fiance is kind of getting into that, so I may record some of that if we end up playing more. It's alright, it's kind of fun, but the no build makes a huge difference. I hated building in that game. You know, I played several hours by myself a while ago just to see what the hype was about it, but I could not stand the building. But it's not too bad of a game. I had fun yesterday, so I may record some of that in the future. I haven't decided yet. But today's topic is going to be just about MMO games in general. Specifically, I'm going to focus on the RPG element. So I'm going to finish sailing to Port Rat, which we're getting close. We're almost there. And I've been saving these 120-minute compasses, so the 2-hour compasses, for a while, just for this kind of stuff, navigating things that I wouldn't normally navigate. But I've been feeling really, I heard some news about some of the RPGs out there on the internet, and I've just been feeling kind of, I don't know how to put it. I guess sad would be a good way. They're closing down a whole lot of the older MMOs. They're just not getting the numbers that they used to, so I want to focus on 3 that I played. 2 of them are closing down, and the 3rd one is dead in terms of population. So the first MMORPG I ever played, and really the first MMO I ever played, because it was a while back, 2007, somewhere around there, but was Last Chaos, USA, and it was run by a publishing company called Area Games, and you know, I'll talk a bit about monetization and that kind of stuff later, but that was the first one. Then I went on to play a bunch of other ones here and there sprinkled around. I played Perfect World, and then the second major title I played was Forsaken World, and it was like a World of Warcraft clone, which it was one of the best games that I've played for that time period. Um, there were a lot of problems with it, but it was a lot of fun, at least for me. Now, another game that I also played was Terra, the Exiled Realm of Arborea. Um, and it was one of the first action combat, and I think they did the action combat the right way. And I will talk about why here in a little bit, but I want to focus on basically those three: Last Chaos, Forsaken World, and Terra. Terra has already closed down; the servers are gone. They closed it down a month ago, at the end of June. Forsaken World is closing down in November, and Last Chaos, the population is just pretty much zilch. It's pretty much gone. So you know, it just makes me kind of sad. And I was thinking about it, whether it was nostalgia, just for old games, you know, remembering things. But I don't think so, not for me, because I remember just how bad some of the stuff in those games were. But that was part of the fun of the game. You know, everyone complained about the same thing, and it's like it brought people together closer as a game population. Like, oh, there's a game-breaking bug. Well, it's something we got to deal with, and we'll complain about it. You know, even though we're still going to continue playing the game. It was just kind of a sense of community. But it's not just nostalgia for me. You know, there were ups and downs in the games that I played. Let's see, we got a little ways to go. We got to get right over there. But there are also things that I really, really miss about those games. And one of them is, I think, kind of to do with nostalgia, but it's why I keep the music on in Black Desert when I'm recording. You know, music makes a game. And if any of you out there that are sub to me and listening, you know what I'm talking about. If you have played an MMORPG for any length of time. So if there's that one game that you played for several years, if there's that one game that you played for several years, the span of several years, a long time ago, if you see a video or you were blindfolded and somebody loaded that game up in your headphones and you heard that music, you would know exactly, just like that, you would know exactly what it was. You know, I mean, music, auditory recognition and association really makes things. So I mean, I can still remember the music when I log into that first MMORPG that I played in the main city where it loaded you in. I still remember it to this day. And then it's the same with the other main city on the second big title that I played, Forsaken World. And I spent a lot of time in that game too. So the first two titles, Last Chaos and Forsaken World, I can still remember the music of them. Terra, not so much, because I didn't spend as much time in Terra as I did the other two. But that's why I keep the music on in BDO. I want to get that association. And now that I've done that, and every time I play and I load into Heidel, it's familiar and relaxing, the Heidel music. If you have it turned down and it's not too loud, it's familiar. You know, it's one of those things where it's good to have the association there. Do this real quick. Now, I don't know where where the wharf is in Port Red, but we're gonna try and squeeze right through this little bay area here. Hopefully, I don't get stuck on the rocks. I've never been up here before. I don't know if we can squeeze through there or not. Oh, we made it. I still have a caravel, so it fits through some places. It's not as big of a ship as the Carracks. So my next hot point about old games and nostalgia are the pay to win aspects and the cash shop. And these older games, they were 100% pay to win. Last Chaos is the biggest pay to win title, I think, that I've ever played. Like, ever. if you didn't spend real money, you barely leveled, which was my situation. I barely ever leveled in that game because, well, come on. I just didn't spend the money, so I spent most of my time grinding gold, because they had a gold-based system instead of silver. You just jump off this way. But they had a gold-based system. They didn't have like silver, copper, any of those things. They have gold, and like with BDO has a silver and then gold bars. Well, it was just gold. You know, it was old school. It was in the time period of all the WoW clones.
That weapon, what is it called?
We'll spend the energy. Why not?
To the point that it's a bit boring.
Get some more knowledge. We'll deal with the ship here in a little bit, but I'm gonna keep walking around and talking to these guys while I talk. But the everything depended on the gold. You know, of course, the items. You dropped items from monsters. You didn't get them from quests or anything. You just dropped items in the overworld by just killing monsters. You know, certain monsters had certain drop tables. It's kind of like BDO. Only your gear didn't come from world bosses. There weren't any world bosses that early. Later on, eventually, there were raids and stuff, but the game was broken up into instances in terms of Last Chaos, where you had dungeons and stuff, you know, like caves, but you would talk to a teleporter. It would teleport you onto that map, and then, what's this? Well, that's weird. Kind of cool, but weird. But they, well, now let me jump up here. I want to climb on that. But anybody else that also went into those caves, they would also be loaded into that same instance of the cave. So, you know, so PvP was a thing. You had to flag up. Let me get myself stuck by just messing around here. But how do I get onto there? I've never been here. This place is weird. This is another thing. Instead of looking things up, I like to explore, so I end up getting myself in weird situations. But as I look like an idiot and run around here, I'm gonna keep on talking. What's over here? Come on. Come on, little Wizzy. Get yourself up there. Yeah, I guess I don't want to go that way. But the, you know, the world was, it felt continuous even though it was instanced in Last Chaos. And now in Forsaken World, it was pretty much the same thing. You had different world maps that you could go through. I don't know how to get through this. I'm starting to get a little frustrated here. I assume that there's something you gotta do to like open this up. Because it just won't let me jump through here. They have it turned off to where you can't. So, fuck it, we'll go around. But, we'll just go this way and talk to these people over here. Now, the leveling experiences are different, you know. Forsaken World had a different cash shop style. They had a bunch of stuff in the game to mitigate bots and spammers, but then they also had a bot system of their own that was like actual use. I don't even care to do the next steps of those quests.
How does it feel to sail?
Hey, look.
I want to get out of this port already.
That was quick, but we're still missing several in here. Central Market Director. Ah, come on. This is a complaint that I have with BDO of that, the delayed input buffering. So, Forsaken Worlds pay to win was different than Last Gas. Last Gas is where you were buying all these items to get levels because levels mattered. You know, you got better stats and you can wear higher gear, better gear, that kind of stuff. 3 node managers for islands. Probably not going to be around here. I guess there's nothing here in Port Rat. It's pretty dead. Wasted my time coming out here. But I did get an energy out of it. And yeah, you can't go any further that way. So, there isn't really anything here for me. All the gates are blocked off. Cool. And I'm going to assume that some of these node manager things are like out here for these islands. Like I said, I don't really know where they're at. But it doesn't matter because I already got the energy and I don't plan on doing any trading out here. So we'll repair the ship and move on. But so as a kind of a precedence there, of course, pay to win was present. And that was a big complaint with a lot of stuff. The more you spent, the better you were, the more powerful you were in PvP. I guess BDO has that a little bit, but not nearly as badly, right? So that brings me to like the grinding versus quests now, and what I miss. So Last Chaos was set up exactly like BDO. Okay, I don't care. I just want supplies. Last Chaos was set up exactly like BDO. In terms of like how you level. You just go kill stuff. You know, it's one of those deals where there were quests in Last Chaos, but they were early on. And it was a Korean grinder just like BDO. And you could do quests, and especially later on when you hit like, I think the level cap was like 185 or 190 whenever I fully quit the game. We gotta go this way. We're gonna go out. Yeah, we'll go this way, out and around. Tell it to just go, and we'll just let it go while I talk. That way I quit getting distracted. It's been 17 minutes of me rambling over nothing. So the grinding was fine, and I love that aspect of it. You know, it was a refreshing thing. You jump on your grind, and then you would item drop hunt. The upgrading and enhancing system in that game had issues, kind of like the BDO one. The gear would break. There were no downgrades. The gear wouldn't lose durability. If you failed, the item was destroyed. So it was pretty bad. And that was one of the big complaints. Of course, they sold items to protect it, kind of like crown stones, in the cash shop, so you can see where the pay to win kicked in. It was a bad thing. But you know, you live and learn. Forsaken World wasn't like that. You leveled with quests. You could grind monsters, but you didn't get XP from them. You would get like other stuff from them. And your gear came from dungeons. So like actual instance dungeons, kind of like raids. Only they were just dungeons. The upgrading system, your gear wouldn't break. You'd lose durability if it failed, and it didn't downgrade. But it was very hard to upgrade anything. So that was fun. But the combat systems were different. For Last Chaos, it was point and click or tap target. Later on, they added WASD movement and stuff like that. And I remember some of the combat. You know, you'd get creative. I used to play on an actual mouse pad on a laptop, and my hand was big enough I could use the whole thing at once. So I got pretty good at PvP on that. But Forsaken World was WASD, and it was tab target. You know, and this is what I miss in games because these full action combat games don't feel like MMORPGs, at least not like the old tabletop RPGs of old. They're a new breed. You know, the older tabletop RPGs were all about dice rolls and character attributes and using your brain to figure out how to get past obstacles versus Twitch style combat where you dodge 400 times. You know, it was a dice roll. That's what made it an RPG, at least the older ones, and I miss that. And that's not just nostalgia, and it's not just, oh, one system's better than the other. I just miss that style of gameplay. And especially for somebody with my hands hurt a lot, you know. I've done a lot of computer work, and I've done a lot of different things in life that have caused my hands to just, they're not in great shape. So like yesterday playing Fortnite with the fiance, after a few games my wrist was just on fire. It just ached really bad. And doing some of those more action style games, it's just not fun for me. But that's a personal preference, really. But I think the reason I prefer that is, one, because of the hand issue, but two, it's just a different style of play. So you're focusing more on your character builds than you really are how well can I dodge something, or how fast can I do this button combination. It's more of a how can I overcome this by using strategy and planning, which I miss because that's the style of game that I like. Now that's not to say that Black Desert isn't a very good game. I still really like Black Desert. These older games though, they did life skilling differently. Last Chaos had some jobs or professions, but they were mostly useless. They didn't update them for the later levels. Like the early levels you could craft gear and stuff, but it wasn't like, I'm gonna head towards this island. It wasn't like they weren't important because the gear was low level, so if you leveled up you could just get better gear later on. And Forsaken World had life skills. They didn't matter. They mattered, but they didn't matter as much as like the ones in BDO do. Like you could craft some things like offhands and stuff you had to have, but you could buy them off the marketplace, so you didn't have to have the life skill, you know. And that was the first game to introduce an energy vigor system that I played. So you were time gated by energy or vigor, depending on what you did. Like if you were out gathering, you had a meter, kind of like BDO energy. But I think that was... Kitty's coming to say good hi. Go on, Kitty. She likes to get up and rub on the mic, and that causes me problems. But that was one of the things where, you know, you were time gated. So you were either time gated by grinding in the older style games, or you were time gated by these newer systems that had energy and vigor and stuff. And then World of Warcraft was innovating on all of these things, you know, at that time. They were kind of pushing the drive for new systems in games. But games try to stand out and be different. Now they're just who has the best combat and throw a bunch of other stuff in there. But BDO, the reason I play it now is because it's just kind of a... it's like a conglomeration of all the systems. I don't know if there's a guy here. I don't see an NPC here. I should have probably went to that island too, but who cares? I got the energy, and that's all that matters. We're gonna just roll back down this way and go back towards the parts of the world that I know where I'm at. But since you can't like autopath here, I just set it and tell it to go and just let it flee. Um, but BDO is a conglomeration, in my opinion, of everything, and I like the life skilling system. I don't mind the energy system. The fact that I can actually go out here and get knowledge and increase my energy pool, that's great. The fact that I can leave the game up and it'll recover energy, that's fine. You know, that doesn't bother me. I can be time gated, but it takes an hour and a half or so to run through almost 500 energy. Plus, if you're doing alts and energy potions, you know, that's a full day's gameplay. You know, you're doing 12 hours of freaking life skilling and gathering by the time you use that energy. And the energy in BDO is only for gathering, right? Anytime you're doing anything like that, gathering and farming. So crafting and cooking and all that stuff doesn't take energy. I think it used to at one point very early on, but they changed that pretty quick. I think people didn't like that. But that's how Forsaken World was. It had energy for doing that, and then it had vigor for doing all the crafting. So you were time gated on both sides, not just one. And that was kind of an issue. But a lot of people didn't even do that because of that. So they were two very different styles of games. Last Chaos, you just grinded. The professions were there if you wanted, but they weren't important at all. Quests were there if you wanted, but they really didn't do much past the early 40, 50, first 40 or 50 levels. After that, you were just grinding, and it was a lot faster to grind anyway, even aside from the quest. So there's that. And then for Second World, you had to run through the quest. You ran through the main quests and side quests to get XP. That's how you leveled up. And then once you were max level, you just run dungeons. And you run dungeons. There were dungeons for each, you know, tiers of leveling too. But that's how you got your gear, through the dungeons. While Last Chaos, you just went and you killed stuff, and it would drop unidentified gear, and you had to identify it, and then it was RNG whether you got a good piece or not. But so RNG's been around since forever, but in the Forsaken World side of things, you would run the dungeons and you would get drops, and it would be RNG based on what drop you got. So there's that. Now, of course, BDO is different. It's just RNG based on what you drop, and you only got one set of gear. The stats aren't different. You know, they're not different based on attributes. So, like in Forsaken World, you had like fire damage. I played a mage, so you could get gear that had like fire damage or ice damage or, you know, that kind of stuff. And then Last Chaos, you had different gear. It would have hit rate or evasion, you know, and you had special attributes like skill cooldown or movement speed, you know, that kind of stuff. Whereas here in BDO, you got one set of gear. Everybody's wearing the same set. What is that? Is that a rock? I don't even know. But everybody's wearing the same gear set. I mean, there's a little bit of customization, but not nearly as much as like certain attributes like fire damage or water damage or anything on gear. Or healing on gear. That's the other thing. The Holy Trinities were a thing. You know, even in Last Chaos, they had healers. It didn't matter as much because you could spam potions and you got like special items from the cash shop that would regen your health and mana. But the Forsaken World was based around the Trinity system, where you have a tank, you have damage dealers, and you have healers. And you ran the dungeons old style, you know, and you had a tank pulling aggro. And you had a healer keeping everybody alive, and then there were different dungeon mechanics, which I really miss that. BDO doesn't have that stuff because it's mostly a solo game. But then again, you don't have to sit around and wait for a party, you know. It's just one of those deals where if you're in one of those dungeon style games, you're waiting for a party at the higher end. Especially if you're wanting a good party, you have to put one together. You make friends, and you wait on them to be online, and you organize it and run a run. But BDO, you're just out here doing solo content for the most part. I mean, there's some group stuff, but mostly solo. The one thing I will say that thinking about all this stuff this weekend, there's several things in BDO that I miss, and I understand why they're there and why they aren't there. You know, the music, I went over that. That is great. The BDO music soundtracks are amazing. But the player trading is not there. I just don't. I feel like I'm walking around and I have main character syndrome, and everyone else is just. All the other players in the game are just NPCs there for my benefit. You know, it's like, oh look, I got a nice chat box where the AI responds if I say something. You know, I mean that's what BDO feels like in terms of like player connectivity. It's basically a chat simulator. In terms of multiplayer, you know, I mean, people can leech. You can go and do a party and get XP, but what's the point? Because the grind spots now are to the point where we clear the grind spots so fast. It doesn't. The grind spots don't support more than one player there, so it's just not worth it. And the player trading is not in the game because of gold sellers. That's their way of combating gold selling. You can't trade direct player to player. I mean, you can trade a few things like beer and like maybe health potions and stuff, but insignificant stuff. You can't bypass the central market. So it's a forced gold sinks or silver sinks in this case. So it's just kind of, it just frustrates me. So, you know, that's one big thing. If if the player trading was there, that things would be a little different in terms of how the connectivity in the game feels. But there's also, uh, I don't know. I think it would benefit from having. I think the game would benefit from having more of that player interactivity, you know, interactive player experience. One sec, I have to get the cat. Down, kitty. Go. She's on the laptop bag, tearing the hell out of it. It's a bad thing about having cats that have their claws. They tear everything up like that. Couches, chairs, all that stuff. But the BDO experience would be a lot different if they had... and my ship's getting attacked, but I'm just going to let it keep right on rolling. I don't want to fight that thing. But if they had more community things that brought the community together, I think it would be better. But I have noticed that I would like to get more into the grinding aspect of things. I've kind of put that off, and I've been focusing on just increasing my... And more things are attacking my ships, but I don't care. I've been focusing on increasing my account's overall wealth, so I've been investing in life skilling and doing some of these different systems in the game just to up my gear score and stuff, but I don't ever really grind, so what's the point? So I want to get back to grinding. I do miss the grinding aspect of games. I just need to put in the time. That's why I've been doing the energy recently. And I know I've made a 30-something minute video of me just gaining one energy and walking around and then sailing through the ocean. But, I mean, it's part of it. I'm doing it to make a point, you know. I've been playing for about an hour this morning because I set it up and I got the ship ready to go, and I got halfway there before I started recording. Up to Port Rat, but that's what RPGs are. You know, you may not make a ton of progress in a gaming session, and you're just, as long as you're having fun. And I mean, this is just something that I've needed to do. I needed to get out and discover some of the ocean, and I had to go to Port Rat and get that energy. That's one energy. It's way the hell out there. The other energy that's kind of way out here is Star's End. I need to go grind Star's End and finish getting the ecology of Calpheon. I'm missing 1 energy because of Star's End, and I need like 2 or 3 more monsters. Maybe 4. I don't know if I have to get all of these for it to work or not, but I need to go gain the knowledge on the majority of these, and I'll get 1 more energy. And then I'm caught up. All the character stuff is done. You know, even these white ones, they're done. People on the sea, people of Kama Sylvia. I have the energy there. I have all the dragon energy. I did all the Odalita stuff over the last couple days. So until I go to the new winter region, I've got everything there. Same with topography. I've got all the energy there. The sea, got it all. Ecology, once I get the Calpheon one, I do have all of these. They're just still white because I haven't gotten all of them. But I need to do 1 more in Valencia, I think. No, 2 more in Valencia, and then I need the creatures. So I got to do Valencia, Kama Sylvia, I got to do a couple energy, and then Dragon, I need to do the Sherikon Necropolis, and then Odalita, I've got several. So I can probably eke another 10 or 15 energy out of what I got left in the ecology. But after that, it's just adventure journals. And I've worked on some of those already. So I need adventure journals and the academics. I got quite a few of those I got to do. So those are going to be the main things. But I want to finish up the ecology ones. And then finish up, whatever ones when I go to the winter region. But I haven't gotten through the main quest in Odalita. It didn't take near all of the main quest. So I've still got 53 there before I can go do the mountain winter stuff. And then there's the Ataraxian things that I don't even know if I'll get through or not, but there is that. But I figured I'd do kind of a podcast style thing today and just kind of let the game play in the background while I did that. I just wanted to talk about, I've been feeling pretty nostalgic, and I've been wondering if it's nostalgia or if it's just difference in games that I'm noticing and missing. And I think it's a little bit of both. Because it's easy to look back and say, oh, this game was so great. Well, then why aren't you still playing it? It wasn't the game that was so great. It was the journey. It was the people. I had a lot of friends back then that played those games. And even the people that I didn't get along with in-game, it was part of the experience. I loved fighting with those people. You get in the middle of town and have chat fights, and then you go outside of town and have PvP fights and run into somebody grinding, and there's always those several guys that spent a ton of money because of the pay-to-win aspect, and you never could kill them. But you come back over and over, and you still try, just because, and it's just part of the experience. And I've always enjoyed being an underdog in games. I'll spend enough to support the game. Several $100s, that's fine. But I'm not going to become a whale just to give myself an advantage. That's not fun. At least not for me. It's like, okay, I spent all this money, the game's done. I've accomplished everything in the game, why play it anymore? And then you're out the money and the experience. So I just don't do that. But there is one major point that I want to touch on before I end this video off. And I know it's rambled on quite a bit, but the whole video is leading up to this point. Skill synergy. And I've noticed this, and more recently than anything, because I've been looking at the BDO mage skills and the wizard skills, and I've been trying to figure out the best build, theory crafting and stuff. And it's made me realize that these action combat RPGs do not have as nearly the skill synergy and the theory crafting behind it that the tab target do. And you can argue either way on this, but here's why I have my stance on it. The older tab target had better skill synergy because it was a necessity. Action combat, while a little bit more complicated of a combat system, is easier to make. You can literally eliminate half of a character's skills if you put in action combat. You don't need defensive skills. You don't need buffs. You can chalk it all up to, well, it's action combat. You can dodge, so you don't need defensive buffs. You don't need defensive skills. You can still throw those in there for an experience, but they're going to be a watered down, dumbed down version of it. And I'll give you one example. Now, Last Chaos, it was a very dumbed down combat system anyway. You had stuns to stun lock people if you got enough cooldown, and you had attack skills, and it was basically a one-shot fest. The PvP was not enjoyable. I had a lot of fun playing PvP, but, you know, if a rogue came up and was invisible, you got one shot from invis, you never saw it coming. That's just how it was. You know, it was a broken combat system, but it was still fun. At least I had fun. Forsaken World was a little different. They took the World of Warcraft approach, and using the mage as an example, there was a mana shield. So you hit the mana shield and it would absorb damage, and it would suck down your mana instead of your HP. Which, it was situational, but it got to the point where characters were doing so much damage, if you actually used that mana shield and you weren't spec'd into it properly, you would literally drain yourself of mana and then die anyway. So it was still a little bit broken, but it was a defensive skill. BDO doesn't have that. And let me bring this up as a example. We do have a magic shield, and mine is maxed. If I hit Q, I'm going to get plus 15% for 30 seconds on resistances, and I'm going to get MP equal to 25% of damage received. Right? So it's going to boost my resistances by plus 15, so I get, but it doesn't mitigate damage unless the resistances are high enough to you, and I still have to consume 25% of my MP. Or 25% of the damage received as MP, but it doesn't mitigate any of that damage. I still take the full damage, plus it drains my MP as well, and it might reduce it by a little bit. It's still relying on dodging, because, oh gosh dang it. Leave me alone. Stupid phantom ship. Alright, so we're gonna go this way. Let it go. Anyway, it's still relying on dodging, because basically the only time you're ever gonna use this is if your dodges are up, you know, on cooldown, and you're out of stamina. You hit Q real quick, you're gonna take 15% less damage for 30 seconds, but you're also going to lose a ton of MP. And it's not going to mitigate it. It's basically, you're paying the mana for 15% reduced damage, instead of getting a flat shield of, oh, I'm going to take damage, let's put my MP shield up, and it's going to consume mana instead of health. No, it still consumes, it actually consumes both, but at a rate reduced by 15%, which is ridiculous. And it's even more ridiculous when you realize that as a mage, I only have 1,500 mana. And there isn't a way for me to increase that I know of. Maybe there's a crystal or something that can do mana, but I really doubt it. I really doubt it. You know, I really don't think so. At least I haven't seen any. And if I'm wrong and there are some, I would love to know what they're called. You can recover, Let's see if there's any in here. MP. I don't see any crystals. That's recovery. Yeah, I'm pretty sure there's none in here to actually increase your mana pool. And coming from a game like Forsaken World where there were crystals to slot into your gear, you could literally get your mana pool as a wizard or a mage up to like 40 or 50 or 60,000. And then your shield would protect you for a little while, you know? So the skill synergy is just... I think the skill synergy is better in tab target tabletop style RPGs. Because they have to be. You have to have the damage mitigation skills. You're a squishy class. Again, taking mage for as an example. You're a squishy class. Your robe, usually robe or light armor class. Or cloth armor. And so, you know, your health pool is not huge. Your mobility is high, usually. You have skills to get you away from out of range of other classes, and you're further away, right? So you're going to have dashes and speed buffs and that kind of stuff, but you're also going to have mana shields and short duration defensive buffs, that kind of stuff. But not in BDO, you know. I mean, I have that one shield, and then I do have protected armor, or whatever that's called. Protected area, shift Q, you get damage reduction by 50%, but it's only for 8 seconds, and the cooldown is 2.5 minutes. So, you know. And then there's some other stuff, like Spellbound Heart, yeah, you get MP recovery and movement speed. Plus you get another skill that reduces cast time. Which as Succession that doesn't matter because the these things take over it, basically. But so there is a little bit of skill synergy, but it's just nowhere near what it should be. And then the healing skills, they're fine, but the cooldowns are so long that if you are actually in trouble, doesn't matter. 20% is not enough. Maybe if I got my HP pool up higher, but it seems to be 3,000, 4,000, unless you, maybe if I just spec'd into full HP or something, maybe. I don't know. I'll have to look into the crystal system, but I think skill synergy definitely goes a lot better with the tabletop style RPGs where you're basically an electronic version of rolling a D20 or something like that for your encounters. Like so if you're doing like a boss and you're sitting there in your tab target, you're not dodging skills, you're just standing there and your armor is protecting your character, you know. It's damage roll versus defense roll, and then damage mitigation is taken off the top, or evasion is whether or not you're rolling a d20 to see if it actually hits. If it hits, then your attack versus defense, and then other damage mitigation skills factor into the algorithm. So, you know, it's just a different style of thing versus, oh, I'm dodging, and if I'm not quick enough, then I lose. There is no theory crafting. It becomes a very simple combat system, even though at first glance it looks more complex and everything. But really, in the design field, it's not. Once the hit detection is there, then you have to worry about desync. And with tab target, desync isn't really a thing. So there is that. I mean, there's pros and cons for both. And I do like both combat systems. And I kind of am somewhere in the middle. I would prefer Guild Wars 2, where it's half tab target, half action. You can move and cast, because a lot of things are animation locked. You know, you're stuck in place for a lot of those older games. But Guild Wars 2 always bothered me because it felt like a snail. You know, it felt very clunky moving and trying to cast stuff. I just didn't like the way they did things. But I still liked the game, and it always felt so grand and fantastic. I still have it installed and updated, and I planned on playing it some, making some content on it maybe in the future. But so far. Nah. This video is going to take an hour and a half to upload, even though I do have like 200 megabits a second upload or something, because it's an hour long and I'm recording at 10,000 bit rate just for video quality. But if you made it this far and you listen to my rambling, I will title this something like Nostalgia Podcast or something, because that's basically what it is. And I hope that a few other people have some comments or something, or at least this makes you think about some old games and brings back some nostalgia, just me talking about some of this stuff. And if there's anything in the future you want to hear about or want me to touch on, let me know. I got a lot of opinions about a lot of stuff. But I'm going to roll back to Velia and maybe do some Rift bosses today. I need to get through those, and then I want to work on some more energy. But I'm going to let this go back, and I'm going to upload this video so you guys can see it. And I hope you have a good rest of the day. Let me like, let me comment, you know, all that fun stuff. And I'll see you in the next one. So, as always, until next time.